wish to cure us. And I say we are the cure.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2006 X-Men sequel, X-Men The Last Stand. The film is directed by Brett Ratner and it stars Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart, Halle Berry, Famke Janssen, Ian McKellen, Anna Paquin, Kelsey Grammer, James Marsden, Rebecca Romijn, Shawn Ashmore, Vinnie Jones, Elliot Page and Ben Foster. Okay, this was the third X-Men film, and it was a massively anticipated X-Men sequel. I believe at the time this was the highest budgeted film of all time. And I remember when this came out, there was like a wave of disappointment with this film. And while I do understand some of that, because, Bryan Singer has been quite open in his criticism of the film and how he would have done it differently, and then fans are kind of like, ooh, I would have loved to have seen Bryan Singer's version. Well, Bryan Singer buggered off to make Superman Returns. He had his opportunity to direct this film, and while he regrets it now, because we all know how Superman Returns turned out for him, if you like, you can't cry over spilt milk. Now, I actually think Brett Ratner does the best job he really could do here with this film. Is it flawed? Yes. Is it as good as the first two? Clearly not. But it is still a fun X-Men film here at the very core of it. And the very core of this film is, this time round at the beginning, mutants and society and government, they're starting to have a bit of an understanding. The government has even employed Kelsey Grammer's Beast, Hank McCoy, essentially as cabinet, as kind of a liaison between mutants and humans, sort of thing. So everyone's trying to get along, and then all of a sudden there is this new cure that has been developed by humans that kind of puts the cat amongst the pigeons in regards to the mutants and the humans. There are some mutants that would really want this cure, and there are others that think it's an abomination. And it kind of sparks a war between human and mutants. Magneto is not going to stand for this cure. He thinks it's an appalling thing, and he's going to it's the excuse he has always needed, if you like, to go to war with humanity. And the film kind of culminates with the X-Men and the Brotherhood of Mutants, the X-Men defending the island where the cure is being held, and Magneto's crew attacking it. But also at the same time, we have the return of Jean Grey. However, she's not the Jean Grey that we remember, and she's a much more powerful mutant than she ever was before, and uncontrollable. And both Professor Xavier and Magneto are desperate to kind of get them on their teams. Right. What are my thoughts on X-Men The Last Stand? Well, as you could probably figure out from me trying to explain the synopsis here, there's a lot going on in this film. Too much going on in this film. I think a lot of people's criticism of this film is that they mishandled the Jean Grey storyline, the Phoenix thing. It was like a side story. It was barely part of the film, and they didn't give it the storyline the respect it deserved after her death at the end of the second one. So there's that side of it, and I get it. I think it just manages to do enough, and you could argue they handled it better than they did later with, was it X-Men? I can't remember the name of it now. The most recent one that kind of killed the franchise, pretty much. So I don't think they do too badly with it. But one of the things that I thought Bryan Singer did really well in both the first two films, he had to find something for everybody to do. And the second one, you think it was going to be a lot more difficult because there's been more mutants introduced. But no, everybody seemed to have their role in the film. This time round, there's just far too many cooks spoiling this broth. You know, you've got Vinnie Jones playing Juggernaut that is just, it doesn't work. You've got Elliot Page here, and I know he's no longer called Elliot Page, but he was when he was making this film, still Elliot Page. And you've got all these mutants here. You've got Ben Foster as Angel, sort of thing, and it just is nowhere near given enough to do. If the biggest part he has in the film is initially, you know, you see him as a boy rejecting his mutant powers, if you like, and then as an adult having to get the cure almost forced upon him, and then at the end rescuing his dad. I just thinking, what was the point of putting him in the film? And you could argue that for many of the new additions here, you know, the new mutants added to the Brotherhood of Mutants, they're given barely anything interesting to do apart from Pyro. They even mishandle Mystique, but my understanding is she had scheduling conflicts as well, so she couldn't be in the film too much. So there's loads going off in this film, but it kind of feels a bit messy at times. And I think if they'd have just focused their energy on, you know, this whole storyline that they've been planting the seed from in the first film, this war between humanity and mutants, and this whole cure idea, which I think works quite well, I think it could have, you know, it could have been a much better film. And surprisingly as well, I mean, I've just been complaining about a lot of the new additions into this film. The one that absolutely shouldn't have worked, but actually I think did, was Kelsey Grammer as Beast, Hank McCoy. And you see him in X-Men Days of Future Past, is it? When he does that cameo as well later in them films that obviously was a bit of a favourite too. I thought he does tremendous here playing Beast. It really, really works. I liked his character an awful lot. And then we've got, obviously, the death scene, spoilers, of Professor X that should have had far more impact than it did. That should have been a thing that triggered the whole, you know, Jean Grey storyline and the really cheap death of Scott at the beginning, Cyclops. And again, the reason why he's barely in this film is because he was in Superman Returns. Why he took that role in Superman Returns, which was a nondescript role, instead of, you know, being a bigger character in this film, I don't know. So you've got like established characters that are kind of taken out in the film, and you just like that they didn't feel earned to some degree. Professor X's death should have had far more impact than it actually did. But, you know, again, the effects are great here. The final battle I thought was excellent, you know, between Magneto's crew and the X-Men. I thought that was really good. As odd as the fight in the forest is, you know, with Wolverine against some of Magneto's crew, you kind of get the feeling that was an afterthought. It was a bit like, oh, we need a bit more Wolverine in this film. I know, we'll do this. Didn't make a lot of sense it being in there, but it was still a pretty cool sequence, if you like. And again, Hugh Jackman, you know, has clearly got a real understanding here of Wolverine. So, okay, this certainly isn't in the same league as the first two. I think there's a lot of talking points in this film, not all of them bad. I think there's quite a few positives to focus on in this film. I rewatched this, obviously, for this review, and I had a good time watching it. I didn't dislike this film at all in any way, shape or form. It just is not at the level of the first two. But there's not many like trilogy of films out there where you can say the quality is as good as each other, or, you know, they get better as they go. There's some you could make that argument for, but not all. But yeah, this is a good one, in my opinion. It's certainly very, very watchable and a decent addition to the first two films. So I will be watching the next one, which I believe is X-Men Origins Wolverine. I'll have to double check that, because there's a lot of these films now, and I want to watch them in the order as to when they were released, not chronologically, if that makes sense. So yeah, I will see you soon, guys. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on X-Men Last Stand, and I will, of course, be back with plenty more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.